Hello everyone. Before we start today's video, if you could all do me a solid and lightly tap the like button, perhaps share the video about and leave a comment. If you are not subscribed, subscribe as well. It would greatly help this channel. Thank you very much. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Captain's log, subdate 221209.7. On some day of Moistmas, my whole crew gave to me a lollipop stick, a jar of PVA glue, and a broken glass. I assume I'm to eat all three of them for science. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I would like to talk about established titles, the subject of which has been doing its rounds for a few days now, and I thought I'd let it simmer a little before chiming in with my opinion on the subject matter. It has nothing to do with, yet totally does, me not being able to pounce on a topic when it's hot. And entirely because I was busy twiddling my thumbs and catching Pokemon in Pokemon Violet. Many content creators, and yes, I'm prefacing the video with a bit of backstory, use sponsors because of a number of reasons. One, they have a wide reach and it helps them to increase their earnings. Nothing wrong with that in the slightest. Others because YouTube demonetized them and sponsorships are the only way they can make money beyond Patreon, Subscribestar, PayPal donations. All of which, much like a sponsorship, can be in a state of flux, depending on the subject matter and the audience reach you have. Having a sponsor for a video is a big deal for many of us. The reason why is because it provides us that security, and that is quite important. But with that, there is a risk. There is always a risk. The risk is simply that we may not have screened the sponsor to be able to determine whether or not it is above board, whether it is a good product, and that is where some sponsors do in fact send merchandise that they themselves want you to promote to the creator. In my 7.5 years on this platform, I've only ever received one legit one that I knew about, and that was Manscaped. But I had this worry because I'm a cartoon avatar. How on earth do I promote such a product with the reach that I have, which made no sense? Others usually say, oh, can you please send us your analytics so we can, determine whether or not you're a good fit for us, but we want you to promote our stuff. How does no sound? I've been quite clear on this from the start. I don't do sponsorships. Why? Because I can't sell anything. I am the worst salesman you'll ever come across. Unless you're trying to sell something like me, you're always going to find it quite difficult to work with someone like me. But I'll take your money for free anyway. Now, in the past, there have been other sponsors that have taken a bit of a pounding with their reputation. The more notable is BetterHelp, where creators were paid quite large sums of money if they just got one person to click on that link and sign up for it, which to many of us seemed a bit morally wrong. A bit meaning hella wrong. The entire point of BetterHelp was to help someone who was going through a difficult time, mental health awareness, and providing support. Many creators getting 200 plus for one person signing up. I know you pay for psychiatrists, so you can put a price on help, but in this context, it seemed a bit off. Yeah, I wasn't a fan. Now, as stated at the start, we are going to be talking about established titles. I've only heard of them promoted by one creator, but there are many creators that have promoted established titles. The one in question for me is the Quartering, and though this is not a dig at him, not in the slightest, I am only alerting you that I have heard of it because of this. Then again, I've also heard of things similar, like buying stars in people's names. It was a novelty in the 90s. Having a respective moon somewhere named after your partner. I also know that one of my favourite whiskies, Laphroaig, if you buy one of their bottles and you register on their website, you get a square foot of Islay, I believe. You can't build anything on it, it's an honorary title, and you can't get more than one. When you set up your account, you get just the 1 square foot of Islay. It is a novelty. I guess that makes me Lord Laphroaig del Moisty Islay. Can I call myself that forever? I like the title. The point is, everyone knows from the offset that it is a novelty, but this is where adverts come in, because they can and are intentionally designed as such, to perhaps provide a false sense of what it actually is. But because of my own experience with, for example, the Laphroaig Islay square foot thing, I know all too well it is not a legitimate thing. And that same reasoning applies to established titles. I'm not now going to sit here and be the person that says, but you're all gullible. You're gullible fools. No, not in the slightest. Just personal experience on my side, that's it. Nothing more. And it is not a dig at anyone that has bought their respective title, of course not. Although I will say off the face of it, when it costs as much as it does on their site at present, yeah, because I got holiday sales, normally a 5 square foot Lordship title pack costs $210, now $42 because of holiday sale. And I'm sat here like, I can buy a star in Mankind for like 10 quid, and I get more use out of that, especially if we reach for the stars and, I don't know, mine it, throw people into it. Seems only fair to fuel it. Now, so you can better understand what established titles is, I think I'm going to try, although I don't know if I'll get away with it, playing one of the adverts I know I have seen, talking about it from, I think, the Quartering.
Shout out to this video's sponsor, Established Titles. Established Titles is a project based on a historic Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lairds or lords and ladies in English. They allow people to buy as little as 1 square foot of dedicated land so they can call themselves a lord or a lady officially. In return, they commit to plant a tree with every order and protect the beautiful, pristine woodlands of Scotland.
Scott Schaffer has done 2 fantastic videos on established titles, and there are some good comments underneath that really highlight how redundant and scammy this all is. In the second video he made, titled Established Titles is far more complicated than you think, the top comment reads, as a Scottish person who works in tourism here, we absolutely hate these land buying scams. Even if legitimate, they don't preserve the land. They stop it from being used at all, leaving it as dead space we can't use for infrastructure, green energy or recreational space for communities. The Scottish people have already been struggling to own our own land due to the Highland clearances, and now being controlled by Westminster, it means no one know who actually owns a lot of Scottish land, and then homes, transport, etc. cannot be built on this land. Also, anyone who travels to the Glen to visit their land are usually laughed at by the locals. If you want to support Scotland, come visit us and support local businesses. We'd love to have you, but please do not buy our land. I've never been overly fond of people buying land in another country, living there for vast swaths of time, but using nom-dom status as a means of getting out of paying your taxes. If we are all to pay it, so are you. And based on our own rules in this country, if you own land here, you should pay council tax on it. While we can all argue on whether taxation is theft or not, which is another argument entirely, pay your fair share, come on. Dickheads. Paige Christie, formerly Petty Page, made a video titled Debunking the Established Titles Scam. But that wasn't the only thing that Paige Christie had done that I thought was fantastic. In a 40-minute, unlisted interview with Established Titles Cat Yip, they went over the entire thing, the whole scam as it were, debunking the myths and interpretations of the law, which I found fascinating when the top comment underneath had timestamps. I like this, because it means I can play them.
No one can have it on their, actually, I don't know if it's true that no one can have it on their passport, but at least it's not like in the drop down little box.
Yeah.
So that's how the calling yourself a lord or a lady works. Like we said, it's for a bit of fun, and I think it's applicable in situations where that makes sense. That's kind of the the fun bit behind the conservation plots. So what our customers do have is they have a personal right against us. We're contractually obliged to keep that land in its natural state forever. And that is being done under the name of the customer or a person that the customer wishes to dedicate that plot to.
Right, so then it becomes a bit of a contract between yourself and the customer that you promise for indefinitely, as long as they arrive, make sure that this land is preserved. I just think that that's probably one of the parts that's a little bit confusing, because there's some people, I mean, even people who may have purchased through myself, who has felt like, oh, I thought like there might have been like, even if I can't really use it, there might have been a little bit of legitimacy behind it. And I think that I think for me, what I can see overall is there seems to be somewhat of a communication breakdown in terms of the information that's filtered to the influencers, because I feel like the influencers isn't doing the company justice in terms of what it is that you guys do. But yeah, so I'm kind of understanding. I personally just wanted to have a conversation with you to clear up a lot of the misconceptions, because after doing a little bit more research, I'm now at the point where I'm thinking to myself, hold on, I don't think that this is... I feel like Home Slice, you know, Scott, he was very liberal with the word scam, okay?
Within the interview itself, there are a number of valid points, and it's a shame it's unlisted. What doesn't help establish titles is, not long after Scott Schaefer released his video, they went on damage control with some of their creators that they have endorsed doing, well, smear campaigns against Scott Schaefer. They amended their website, which Scott Schaefer confirmed via the Wayback Machine. As pointed out by Legal Eagle, the idea and the novelty of the title is quite clearly spoken about by the Court of the Lord Lion, and they had to make adjustments to their website, established title that is, to include the fact that at no point did they actually mention the trees they claimed they were planting, additionally amending a paragraph on the home page to specify that this is essentially a novelty. When your response to a video that essentially breaks the internet quite clearly calls you out for what is a disingenuous and very misleading idea, and your response to it is to send out the link to a person calling the person who called you out racist as a way of preventing people from, let's say, taking away their patronage and asking for refunds, chances are he might have a point. Also, at no point in his first video, Scott Schaefer's that is, does he mention race at all. Pinned comment, I will be linking both his videos. The most important thing we need to discuss is whether or not established titles is a scam. The idea of conferring a title upon another in the way that it is done by established titles is a scam. It can only be seen as such. It is not legitimate, and at no point in your FAQs originally, something you can see in the Petty Page interview, do you specify all of this. You had to make the adjustments after you were called out for it. And while it is nice that your customers have a legal right to one of the many square feet you have on the 200 acres you own, which means if you screw with the land, they can screw with you. They're not a lord, laird, or lady. Many years ago, a man called Danny Wallace turned his apartment into a brand new country. He had a legal right to do it. In fact, he managed to do it for a while. If you don't know who Danny Wallace is, he does the voice of Sean Hastings in Assassin's Creed. That very idea blew his career up, but he looked at all the legal routes and options to actually make it happen. Yours is just you giving someone something which doesn't actually give them any rights at all. And as the Court of the Lord Lion have pointed out, laird is not a title but a description applied to those living on and around the estate. It is also not a description which is appropriate for the owner of a normal residential property. Part of me thought the 200 acres that they owned was just landfill in the first place. Or maybe a brownfield site that we want to develop on for housing that they just prevent us from doing it with, and that all the trees they no doubt have are still sat in pots waiting to go in the ground.